Namaste and warm welcome to all distinguished participants joining us today for our 56th episode of the IET India Digital Conversation, an exclusive webinar on the highly anticipated topic of transforming businesses, creating opportunities, the 5G impact for India. We're thrilled to have you here as we navigate the intricacies of impact plan that has been brought by 5G technology in India, hence transforming businesses across sectors in Indian business landscape. We will deep dive into the top stories of how 5G rollout in India has impacted the business and revolutionized various industries, thus propelling growth and creating opportunities. I'm Pratyak Shegde, your host for the series, and I lead the events development team for the IET in India. Now let's get down to business and introduce our speakers for this session. Our first speaker is Mr. Shankar Vishwanathan, who is the CIO at Sundaram Clayton. In his 40-year career in the industry, spanning multiple regions of the globe and arching over over 100 customers, he's been responsible for managing teams that stacked up to several thousand people. In his capacity as a senior leader in global organizations, along with rich experience in handling large client engagement successfully. Welcome, sir. Our second speaker is Monica Gupta, who is the global 5G and edge expert leading industry use cases and alliances at Capgemini. She also leads the industry-focused Capgemini's 5G lab in Mumbai. She works with the Capgemini clients on how they can adopt 5G edge and complementary technologies for their data-driven digital transformation. Welcome, ma'am. Our third speaker is Gaurav Sharma, AVP Engineering, Amantia Technologies. Gaurav's profound contextual understanding and engineering proficiency not only drive clients towards expeditious 5G technology adoption, but also contribute to the capability to foster ecosystems that collaboratively innovate for superior future outcomes. Welcome, sir. And finally, coming to our fourth speaker, and who's also our moderator for the session today, Mr. Sunil David, digital technology consultant, ex-regional director, IoT AT&T, and our co-chair for digital communication, Group of IT Future Tech Panel. Welcome, sir.
Thank you,
Without
Pratyaksh.
further ado, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Pratyaksh, for that introduction. Wish to thank IET for giving me the opportunity to moderate this virtual panel that will deliberate on the topic of transforming businesses, creating opportunities, the 5G impact for India. Good morning to all those who joined virtually, and a warm welcome to all my panelists. Now, before we start the discussion, I just want to take a few minutes to set the context. Exactly 1st of October 2022, at the IMC Delhi, that 5G services were launched in India. Little over a year now. And while India might have been late in starting 5G rollout, the fact is that the fastest and the largest 5G deployment in the world, India is proud to hold that distinction. We have almost 125 million users as on date. The operators are building almost one cell site per minute, almost 700 districts covered by 5G. And at this rate, we'll perhaps have Reliance Jio completing their rollout by end of the year, and maybe Airtel would finish by the first quarter of next year. And incidentally, both these providers have also launched their 5G fixed wireless access. One more important thing to note is that the average 5G download speed, India is right now at number 6 as per a report by Ookla, 301.6 Mbps, which is commendable. At the recently completed IMC in Delhi, India Mobile Congress in Delhi, which happened last month, the government also announced that they're going to set up 500 5G labs within leading engineering institutes. And the whole objective is to facilitate the development of 5G applications and services to bolster applications around smart transport, precision farming, smart learning, and many other such opportunities. As per a KPMG report, which was also released during IMC, 5G is expected to contribute 170 billion US dollars in the next 5 years to India's GDP. Last year, there was a well-known research and consulting firm called Omdia. They actually did a research on some of the large Indian enterprises. When they interviewed 300 Indian enterprises, last year to figure out what is their appetite when it comes to using 5G. As per that report, they said that 52% of the 300 odd enterprises had expressed a desire to start using 5G this year, and another 31% of that expect to adopt 5G in 2024. How much has that happened? We really don't know. But the fact is that from a telco perspective, the real monetization is going to come from enterprise. Now, India's journey in this evolution of 5G technology has been remarkable, and I've given you some stats. Now, I just wanted to highlight three important aspects. Some of the lessons that we also learned from countries that have deployed 5G. The first point which I wanted to emphasize is that the need for collaboration and partnerships, that is going to be very critical to really drive 5G adoption in India, because most of the 5G enterprise use cases revolve around the ability of the communication service providers to collaborate and co-innovate with the partner ecosystem. And an effective partner ecosystem can really help communication service providers better support their customers' growing needs and more comprehensive solutions using 5G and other advancing technologies. So we're going to definitely talk about this. Monica would definitely share her views on this. The second important aspect is the whole infra development. There is definitely a need to formulate regulations and administrative processes in the context of digital connectivity infrastructure development, DCID. The plan is to set up a digital communications readiness index for mapping and tracking the state's performance on digital initiatives under the Department of Telecom, and that would be instrumental in expediting 5G implementation. So it would be nice to see all the states competing against each other. And of course, the role of the infrastructure providers must evolve in accordance with the future needs of 5G. And this include aspects related to lit fiber capacity, optical transport bandwidth, number of towers, 5G repeaters, small cells, and so on and so forth. The third important aspect is the availability of high capacity backhaul spectrum. I think that is extremely important. The fiberization that is done today is just 30 to 35% of towers. That needs to increase because we really need high speed backhauls to really take advantage of the high bandwidths that 5G offers. Now, while we want to really focus on the enterprise side here, let's not just forget the telecom providers, because on the consumer side, while we're seeing adoption picking up, for them, the real monetization is going to come from the enterprise, right? And for enterprises also, what would be very important is identifying the right use cases. And the big question is, what is the return on investment? Because 5G would call for investment, right? And if you just look at adoption of 5G in India amongst enterprises today, I think it's a bit low compared to other countries, and that definitely needs to pick up. We are seeing a few companies in the automotive space which are leveraging 5G. For example, I know Mahindra and Mahindra testing out a 5G use case for quality in the Chakan plant close to Pune, software flashing of vehicles. I know that Maruti is also trying to test out something in the 5G side. Bosch is trying to set up a private 5G network in conjunction with Airtel, right? So we are seeing this. We are also seeing L&T in partnership with another service provider testing out 5G for video surveillance. Private 5G, which is again one of the key drivers for 5G growth. Again, if you just look at India, the country, as per a report by GSA, which is Global Mobile Suppliers Association, which has companies like Intel, Qualcomm, Nokia, and Ericsson as part of their membership. When they did a study, they found that private 5G network adoption in India is still low. It's less than 20 today in terms of networks deployed. US is leading as per the report, 163. Germany is 89. China is 51, and so on. And there are reasons for that. So one is, of course, finding the right use cases. They don't have enough of that right now. Absence of an integrated ecosystem, aversion of taking spectrum in lease, the high dependency on telcos, and so on, right? So private 5G will definitely give a fillip to 5G adoption. Of course, identifying the right use cases is going to be critical. So with this context in mind, let's move to the panel discussion. And I would first like to get Mr. Shankar Vishwanathan. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time to join this panel. You represent Sundaram Clayton Limited, one of the largest automotive component companies in the country, part of the 6.6 billion TVS group. You come with about 40 years of experience. And what I really liked when I was going through your profile is your professional philosophy has always been to deliver value and to drive digital transformation for organizations. And you're doing that exactly in Sundaram Clayton. So, can you share with us, Shankar sir, some of the digital initiatives that are underway at SEL, and specifically how 5G is being leveraged within your enterprise? If you, I know you have already started some use case, but it'll be nice for you to share, Shankar sir.
Thank you, Sunil. Great to get together with all the colleagues from the industry, and and thanks to IET for giving a platform to share my thoughts on the subject. You are right, Sunil. 5G adoption in India is perhaps, especially in the private enterprise segment, is a little lower than several of the advanced countries. But having said that, I think there has been a lot of traction in the last few months in terms of how the companies are testing the waters. And I have these conversations with my professional colleagues from the industry, and I get to hear of their thought processes. Let me tell you a little bit about what our journey has been, right?
Sure.
And that kind of gives you a context of where we are headed with this. Several months ago, we have been looking at transformation, digital transformation across the industry, across our plants. And essentially, our business is primarily into aluminum die casting. Aluminum die casting is a very complex business, and it's also not the traditional run-of-the-mill machining kind of an operation. You are actually bringing in metal at very high temperatures and then converting them into components, machine them for different automotive segments and different global marketplaces. So the requirements become challenging as we move forward. One of the days when you would have a bunch of people doing things manually, today, to get the efficiency, to get the precision, to comply with a lot of global norms on safety, on the regulatory aspects, as well as on ESG norms and guidelines, you have to sharpen what you are doing very, very accurately. And so the information flow, therefore, becomes that much more demanding, right? You have to have data at your fingertips. You have to have data at very high orchestration into coming into your purview to make sure that you are doing things the right way in a very short period of time. So while we were evaluating, our options and considering investments, that is when the announcement, and you are right, last IMC, the availability of private 5G in India was announced. So we were sitting together and talking to our technology teams internally, and then we realized that that could be a platform that we should be evaluating for our future requirements. So what happened was we did a trial, we did some evaluation around the country and outside, then decided that we'll do a proof of concept within our ecosystem to see whether this was going to work. We actually, given little ups, the typical startup issues, but at the end of the day, within about 4 weeks, we were able to connect several of our use cases onto a 5G platform and actually test it out, right? At that point of time, it was still very evaluatory. And then we found that the benefits of having a platform that could be seamless, that could be pretty powerful in terms of its bandwidth, it's in terms of the latency, in terms of the way it could turn around, was giving us a tremendous opportunity to onboard a full-fledged plan. So we actually signed up for, perhaps, as far as I know, we were the first Indian automobile manufacturing company to have an operational 5G environment almost 6 months ago, 6 to 7 months ago. Since then, we have been onboarding a lot of use cases. We actually connected very complex machines on the shop floor to the 5G network, and they are downloading data on various parameters from efficiency, from there is machine efficiency, temperature, maintenance, and all the production counts and so on and so forth, all the good things that a typical manufacturing organization needs to run its operations, right? So we have been able to collect that very seamlessly. Added to that, the same network is able to give us enough support on video surveillance. You talked about an organization giving you video surveillance. We have actually implemented that so that one of our cells is actually looking at how that operation takes place. Then we tested out things like AMR. We had to work with a couple of vendors to retrofit their Wi-Fi AMRs to a 5G AMR, and we kind of made sure that works in our environment. So what happens is this gives us a tremendous opportunity to actually re-engineer things like your material handling, material movement, and that automatically brings in the efficiency and also an element of safety that is placed. Since we are dealing with liquid and molten metal at very high temperatures, safety aspect becomes a very critical issue. So this kind of design also enables us to increase that quotient. The one aspect of 5G operations is you also need to have the right set of partners to configure and create that engineering network engineering ecosystem that can support it. And placement of your radios, the size of your core, the knowledge of your core, how big a core you want to really have, so sizing the devices, your data rates, all these things come in. So there's been a lot of learning for us. Not every use case was successful in the first go. Some of them they worked very seamlessly. Some of them we've been having challenges, and as we learn, so are the partners and scaling up the ecosystem. So, but I think if this journey is something phenomenal, and it is going to give a lot of opportunities for our enterprises to bring in that efficiency and also the ability to put on several interesting use cases into play, so that they get the benefit. One of the use cases we are considering is, as I said, we have put in video surveillance, but that automatically gives us the opportunity to create use cases around safety, man safety, right? Personal safety. And, alerts can get triggered if people are, if an unsafe, working condition is spotted. And preventing accidents can happen very, very quickly, even before anybody can see that. That the use case will drive you towards that. So the other one is on other one use cases that we have tested, and we will probably deploy it later part of the year, is around support for quality engineering, right? So we have a central team that comprises of metallurgists and engineering specialists, right? But our plants are scattered all over. So when there's an issue with any product, there's a local team that comes to support. But if the complexity is much more, then we need the specialists to come in. Rather than getting the specialists to be running around, we have been able to test this with AR/VR kind of equipment on 5G, where people walk around and actually are able to interact with the base team back and diagnose these issues and come to a quick resolution. So we have about 25 such use cases that we are working on, and this will definitely give that push that we are seeking. There is always a quotient of digital transformation that happens in the shop floor, which is connecting the machines, getting the data, moving things across. But pushing it with a platform that is seamless, that is extremely fast and low latency. We have been. I think we have a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shankar sir. I think that was very comprehensive, and I actually am pleasantly surprised when you told me about so many use cases that that you're using 5G for. Because I just recollect you mentioning about AMR, but even for connecting your machines, safety, quality, that's amazing. And also the fact that you mentioned that You have seen an increase in efficiencies. And so I'll come back to you later. I have a couple of follow-up questions based on what you shared. Let me get Monica from Capgemini into the discussion. Monica, you come with a very strong telecom background, having worked with some of the best companies, Nokia, Ericsson, and Airtel, of course, before you took up this role with Capgemini and the global 5G and edge lead for industry and alliances. And you're pretty much tracking what's happening globally when it comes to 5G, right? Especially in Europe, in North America, and so on. So can you give us a sense in terms of how is 5G from an enterprise standpoint being deployed, adoption in these geographies, and any specific learnings that we can take to really propel growth for Indian enterprises to adopt, Monica?
Sure, Sunil. So actually, you and Shankar sir have made my life very easy, because just at the start of the session, you've actually given the statistics from GSA and many other global, research, and I could not even imagine, Shankar sir explaining these use cases, and the fact that these use cases are being done in India. In fact, next time, Shankar sir, I'm visiting your factory. So. Sunil, this is exactly the thing. I mean, you mentioned the GSA report that 5G private networks are the highest in US, and then followed by Germany and Europe, and India is lagging. But that is where the thing is. 5G's deployment in enterprise, it is a process, it is a journey. Enterprises have a basic inherent nature, given their type of operations and the type of industrial operations that they do, that they test the technology, they become comfortable with the technology, and only then do they deploy it. There is a huge amount of trust and reliability which they need on the technology, and also on the ecosystem of providers who provide it. And so the Western countries have already embarked on this journey. In fact, what we see now, 2024, we are seeing a phase when the most of the big, large global MNCs are actually moving from piloting and trialing to actually commercial deployment or industrial deployment of these solutions, and also planning for deployment at scale. So it is actually moving from innovation and an experimentation phase to actually an operations, and also from an industrial equipment manufacturer's point of view, a product phase where they're starting to design products and solutions based on 5G. With respect to what that means for India, I think what we only need is a willingness of the industry to come out and try. As has been highlighted, and it has been very, very well explained by Shankar sir, the power of the technology is in using this technology in more than one use case. If you kind of do a point to point that technology use case, perhaps this technology will be underutilized. And this is also the power of this technology, which is vis-a-vis the other wireless technologies which are available, like Wi-Fi and all, where you kind of typically use it for select applications, and also very select coverage. The other aspect with respect to adoption in India is also now the fast developing local solution and the provider ecosystem in India. I believe a lot of it has already happened, and this new upcoming 100 5G use case lab will only spur it, because it suddenly now has new innovative solutions coming in from the top engineering institutes of India, catering to the specific needs of India. And then these solutions can be deployed not just by the large enterprises, but also by the MSMEs. And the telcos with the rollout have already made the availability of 5G feasible. I think the only roadmap or an area where they would work on is now looking at making the enterprise features more easily available. Features like being able to network slice and give an MSME dedicated pipe with guaranteed QoS, which then gives you basically a medium performance 5G capability, but at the same time higher battery life and lower power consumption, which is actually a killer use case for many industrial applications. So once these, I would say, these additional functionalities and capabilities are also kind of introduced, I think there's absolutely no reason why this technology should not get adopted. The last and the only other point which I would make is, and this has been, I think, a point of discussion globally, is that we should avoid trying to make technologies compete with each other. There has always been a lot of discussion about Wi-Fi versus 5G, industrial LAN, industrial Ethernet versus 5G, 4G versus 5G. I think it's about using the right technology, right connectivity for the right use case. And I believe vast to have hybrid combinations of technologies also. So, for example, if there is a deployment where there is an existing deployment of Wi-Fi, there is absolutely no need to sunset it. You can easily use fixed wireless access, use 5G as a backhaul, and continue to use wherever you have Wi-Fi coverage, and complement it, and use 5G for the other advanced digital use cases which you are implementing. So that's my thought.
No, great points, Monica. I just wanted to take two things that you said. The one is the fact that you can't have technologies competing against each other. Very, very valid point, because you need coexistence of these technologies, right? You need 5G working in conjunction. Maybe a narrowband IoT, there could be some use cases there. Maybe even satellite communication, because we're seeing a lot of focus now on satellite communication, non-terrestrial communication. So big players are now wanting to play in that space, right? So good point about the coexistence of technologies. We can't have technologies competing against each other. The other point that you talked about, MSMEs, Monica, that's so critical, because they contribute 30% to India's GDP, contributing significantly to our manufacturing output, especially the manufacturing MSMEs. Now, the question would be about affordability, Monica, because it's nice to say that yes, MSMEs have to adopt 5G. It is good for their business. Forget about growth, even for sustainability of the business, right? But the question would be about the affordability of 5G for MSMEs. So I'm just wondering, how do we address the cost aspect, especially given that they are very, very price sensitive, Monica?
So this is where I believe the availability of the variety of solutions is going to make an impact. So from a technology point of view, I think a part of the cost thing is already addressed, because the moment you have what you call as 5G private networks, these are small compact 5G solutions, right? In fact, 5G in a box as well, 5G network in a box. So you basically now have different configurations and different sizes of 5G, which of course come with their own price, lower the size and lower the capacity, lower the price. So one, the MSMEs and the enterprises can pick and choose what meets their requirement. The second one is the role of the telcos, where it is primarily a volumes game in India. So the moment the MSMEs who contribute so much, and we have, I think, thousands of MSMEs in India, the moment the adoption reaches a kind of a point where the scale is there, automatically the prices will come down. What is still a bit of a challenge with respect to 5G pricing is, I think the price of the 5G network components, the radio and the core, is still already kind of starting to come down. In fact, it's now more or less literally comparable with the Wi-Fi solutions, is the cost of the devices. Now, typically, as has been the trend with GSM and cellular technologies, most of the focus is on the consumer side. Most of the volumes, also the billion and billion of devices on the consumer side. So the 5G device cost of the smartphone cost on the consumer side has already come down. The same thing is now starting to happen on the industry side. I think it's just a matter of time when even that picks up and then the cost comes down. And which is where I was also making that other mention, that the moment you start talking of using technologies in complementarity, you can continue to use Wi-Fi where it meets your purpose, where the use case doesn't warrant it. You can still continue to use NB-IoT. You can use 5G RedCap. And then you only use the full-fledged enhanced mobile broadband or the URLLCC full-fledged 5G capabilities on the device side when needed.
Right, Monica. Now, just before I get to Gaurav, the point on the MSME, I just want to get Shankar back into the discussion, because Shankar, you're a large automotive component company, already deployed 5G, testing out use cases, but you also have to deal with your ecosystem of partners, right? So is there also a push from your side to your smaller, and most of them might be medium-sized, small-sized enterprises, manufacturers, to also start really considering 5G for their factories for any specific use cases?
Sunil, see, this is really, it's a kind of a chicken and egg situation, right? 5G is expensive, and your ROI model has to sustain it. Otherwise, there is no point in going in for 5G. You cannot adopt 5G for the sake of hanging a shingle outside, right? It has to make sense to us. So that is why we went into this evaluation of the POC mode, proof of technology, really, rather than a proof of concept, because the concept is proven. And we had to look at what kinds of ROI it would make sense. Yes, if you were a specialist, component manufacturer, a small scale manufacturer, or a subcontractor where quality is going to be an issue, and we maybe a small 5G network with visual inspection platforms can make sense, but then it should not stack up into your end cost. At the end of the day, it is a business call. It is not a technology call. It has to be a business call to determine what kind of network platforms you are going to have and what is sustainable. And there is always this question of whether it is a brownfield versus a greenfield, right? A brownfield plant or brownfield enterprise will have its own issues. They would have, done miles and miles of cables and ports and switches and so on and so forth. What do you really do with them? They are working. They are perfectly fine. And
there's a lot of legacy infrastructure that they have, right? Again, trying to integrate that becomes a challenge.
Yeah, and you cannot just discard it. On the other hand, if some of your equipment is coming to an end of life, it is worth evaluating it at that point. For instance, security. 5G, private 5G network gives you a level of security that is today unsurpassable as a straightaway benefit, right? So if you're going to put a security layer on top of your current network infrastructure, it's a point to evaluate if some of your equipment is coming to end of life. There is a business case that works out. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend it. Whereas in a greenfield plant, it is definitely something that can give you a lot of payback, because you are going to avoid putting in miles and miles of cabling and everything else, and you can straight away get the efficiency that you want. So it's really a business call to determine where it goes. The second part of the 5G part, again related to the point that both of you have just been raised, in an IT network, in a pure IT network, it doesn't make sense, because most of the equipment today, the desktops and laptops and everything else, are not 5G fitted, right? There's no point in providing a network infrastructure where your base equipment cannot work. So it's really something that will probably evolve, but at the end of the day, it's a business call.
Right, Shankar sir. Thank you for that. So let me get Gaurav Sharma from Mankia Technologies into the discussion now. So Gaurav, I had a look at your website. Very impressive, I must say. Now, one thing which caught my attention, of course, was the 3 pillars of your 5G offerings: accelerators, solutions, and services. So for the benefit of us and for the audience, can you elaborate more on your 5G offerings, Gaurav?
Sure, Sunil. So first of all, thanks for having me on this webinar. So let me first summarize, the journey that we've had in the last 5 or 6 years, and I'll talk a little bit more about the 3 pillars that you just mentioned. So we're a purely Indian organization. Our 5G journey started around 6 years back, right? Wherein we started with building some of the core 5G pieces, right? Again, it's an engineering organization. We started with building our in-house 5G core, right? The first release that we had, that was in the year 2020. Luckily for us, we found a paying customer for that as well. And since that time, for the last 3 odd years or so, we have been constantly enhancing our 5G core. So it's 3GPP 60 release 16 compliant at this point of time, and it's actively deployed as well, right? So in terms of our accelerators, I mean, the way we look at the 5G core, and especially when customers come to us, they are looking for end-to-end complete solutions, right? So one of our primary accelerators is our 5G core, right? The other is again, around 3 years back, we started investing on the radio side as well, right? We have our own RAN stack as well, the G.V stack for 5G network. That's the other accelerator we have. And again, both these accelerators, I mean, again, we were lucky in that sense that we got the opportunity to kind of integrate these with a lot of standard offerings from OEMs like Ericsson's and Nokia's, Radis's, etc. Right. The other accelerator that we have, and that again, it's a deployed accelerator, is a UPF. A lot of people take UPF as a part of 5G core, but the way we look at it, and especially the way the user plane from where the whole of the data of the goes, right, we view that as a very important, very independent piece or accelerator from our perspective, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Apart from this, since a lot of accelerators that we've developed, we developed that on the basis because they were helping us at one point of time building our solutions, end-to-end solutions, and then opening these accelerators for our customers as well, right? So 5G core, G.V stack, the UPF. Apart from this, we also invested in building NMS systems specifically targeted, or orchestrators targeted for 5G networks, right? Now, again, one of the things that's very interesting with 5G and where it is different from, say, traditional or legacy telecom networks, is that it's a if you look at the core part of it, it's more of a software solution, right? So you don't need any custom hardware for this, right? And even the technologies that have been used in it, for example, microservices or virtualized platforms, right? So in that sense, it's a more of a software sort of a thing. So orchestration plays a very critical role in that. So we also built a accelerator on the orchestration side and kind of integrated that with our NMS system as well, right? So these are in principle some of the accelerators that we have. Though in-house for some of our personal development, we did go ahead and build a few things on the 4G side, on the IMS side as well. But primarily, these are the accelerators that we typically use. In terms of now jumping to the solutions, right? I tend to group them into 2 or 3 different buckets, right? The first one, and a lot of the other panelists have alluded to the labs as well, right? So one of the most popular product or solution that we have from our side is our lab offerings, right? Now, and again, these are things that are currently in the field. So we have provided our network in a box, right, which is again a small footprint 5G core plus the G.B plus the UPF plus the NMS, right? It's a small box. Very easy solution. You just switch it on, pre-configured, plug and play, right? So you have instant 5G connectivity, right? We have sold close to around 300 such boxes, right? Some in India, some out of India. Even in India, this has been deployed already in 15 to 20 different places. Especially in Northeast, we've sold a number of these boxes. That's one part. Apart from this, we are also having virtual lab solutions where a lot of device manufacturers or people who want to build applications on 5G and test those applications, right? So we do provide virtual environments for these sort of customers to come in, test their solutions as well, right? We also have a private 5G solution as well, and then we are in active conversation with a number of Indian companies at this point of time on private 5G as well, right? Herein again, a lot of accelerators that we have. we have kind of integrated these together to come up with our private 5G solution, right? Another interesting product that we have is oriented more towards organizations that want to test their 5G offerings, right? Which we call the test automation framework for a mobile 5G, right? So what we provide in there is a way to actually have an array of, say, 64, 128 different real 5G modems or UEs. And then you can actually test your G Node V, you can actually test your 5G core with these real modems, G Node B, UEs, etc. Right? The importance of this particular product is that a lot of time what happens is that people test their solutions in labs where it might be working fine, very well, but the moment they get it into the field, something or the other breaks, right? So it's very important for a lot of device manufacturers or IoT sensor manufacturers, right, to actually test their solutions, right, before rolling them out. So this is again a very interesting product that we have, and again this is again something that we sold to two of our customers as well, right? Uh, so this was more on the 5G side. Apart from this, we do have few solutions that we built on the V2X, CV2X side. And again, this comes from some of the work that we've done with our customers, right? So we do have CV2X applications that we've built. And again, since we already had a MEC or a edge computing platform built, right, it was quite easy for us, or it made a lot of sense for us because when you talk about vehicular safety applications, right, 5G brings a lot of interesting solutions, right? This may be related to edge computing, this may be related to slicing, this may be related to quality of services, right? So again, you just integrate these things, and then using certain AI, ML logic, and of course, there are certain V2X related things, applications that you need to implement. You have very interesting V2X solutions as well. So that's the other offering that we have. We are also working on certain robotics related things at this point of time. This is more guided vehicles. We do create solutions in that space as well. And so primarily that's the accelerator and the solution side. On the services side, I guess, since most of our customers, I mean, they have been telecom customers, we do provide services in that area. This may be related to software development, this may be related to integration, testing, rollouts, etc. We do have groups or other verticals that work on the cloud side as well, right, in some of the enterprise applications.
Okay, thanks, Gaurav. I think that's very, very impressive for an Indian company to come up with the breadth of these solutions, capabilities, and also some very specific. You talked about V2X. Very, very impressive. Thanks for sharing, Gaurav. Let me get Monica back into the discussion. So, Monica, we talked about this whole ecosystem player, right? I mean, ecosystem player, so many players. You have the telcos on one side, you have the device ecosystem, then you have the system integrator, then you have the hyperscale providers. So from an enterprise standpoint, and Shankar also mentioned that choosing the right partners is so important. Now, the role of someone who can kind of orchestrate that whole ecosystem, right? From an Indian perspective, what are your views, and who do you think is best positioned to really play that role of an ecosystem orchestrator, Monica?
So, Sunil, I would like to answer this a bit differently. And perhaps, after that, I would be very keen to hear Shankar sir's view. It is, whenever a new technology gets rolled out, and specifically now a new technology after, I would say, decades, where, the enterprises and the industry are adopting it and doing such a big shift. But when you look from an enterprise point of view, and specifically if you talk to somebody who's from the supply chain or the procurement part of enterprises, it is not complex. enterprises are used to making products, and when they do the complete knockdown components, the chips and the resistors and the capacitors, and then when they can do a full assembly of boards, and then they can manage an end-to-end supply chain. I mean, just taking the example of the automotive industry. Automotive industry is globally the largest industry sector amongst all industries. And if you look at the kind of suppliers, there is a full supplier of the OEMs, the tier one suppliers, the tier two suppliers, the component suppliers. So the entire supply chain and the entire this system works. Now, in this, there is just a new technology which has come in. And if it generates value, if it meets, as was also spoken about, if it creates business value, and it generates benefits, it will get adopted, and the ecosystem automatically for it will be chosen. The partner ecosystem for it exists. Even today, every enterprise is already working with a telco, may not be inside their premises, but the connectivity of their premises to the cloud, inter-premise connectivity, all the MPLS, VPN connections, the telcos are very much engaged. Even, in fact, in-premise mobile coverage, the public mobile coverage, the telcos are giving. Including in large enterprises setting up dedicated towers and coverage radios, such that they get a good experience for all the people working there. Similarly, if you look at SIs, you look at hyperscalers, you look at device providers, you even look at connectivity solution providers, Wi-Fi connectivity, all other different existing industrial Ethernet connectivity, their components, the routers, the switches, they are all already today being procured. So there is no different thing. It's just that new players come into the play, and specifically as the technology matures, there is also this retrofitting, taking an AMR, retrofitting it. There are some new nuances which get introduced. As long as the existing players and the new players are catering to it, it works fine. I think the only other point which I will make is that from the provider point of view, it is very, very important for even the different providers to collaborate. What typically happens whenever a new technology comes, everybody wants to do everything. And everybody tells the enterprises or the client, oh, I can do it everything and make me the prime. That is where the problem is. And the best answer to this is, let the enterprises choose what way and which way they want to work, and then tell each stakeholder, X, you do this, Y, you do that, Z, you do that, and please work together and make it happen. Simple answer.
Yeah, that's the toughest part, Monica. Getting the providers to collaborate. Easier said than done,
Only
right?
the end customer can make it happen. When the enterprises put their foot down, the only thing is that for enterprises, it's a learning journey. They are also trying to figure out who will do what. It's a new technology. So, and which is what this learning is and what this process is. Eventually, I would say by 2024, 2025, this ecosystem will stabilize and will be very mature, with exactly different players playing in their niches, proving value, and of course the enterprise is becoming much more comfortable and much more clearer of how they want to do it.
All right. Now let me get Shankar now back. So Shankar, you heard what Monica said, right? I mean, you're obviously working with the telecom providers, and you mentioned earlier that choosing the right partners was very, very important as you started your 5G journey. So can you share how did you go about this whole selection of the right partners, and
So,
can you
sure, Sunil, when we started the journey, I think the options available were not that many, right? If you look at the telco providers, you look at only 5 guys who got spectrum licenses, right? And you have to pick from one of them. And the question really comes down to who can give you that service. And out of the 5, one guy was all private. I don't want to name names here. One guy was all private for himself, for his business. He was not going to go public. The other guy did not have the money to go do anything with it. So that left a very small choice to make, right? And really the support and infrastructure in where we operate, that mattered at that point of time. And so we did not really have a choice from who the telecom provider was. But we did have a choice from who the system integrator was going to be. And so we were able to, look at several options and then choose the guy who was able to come in and demonstrate what they could do, right? So, but, like rightly as Monica said, next year or the years to come will give you a better perspective and a better choice to make these decisions, and they're going to be more efficient as we see into the future. But the telcos, I know, and something interesting I saw at the IMC this year was the telcos are trying to penetrate the enterprise, not just with a 5G but with a use case offering. So they are starting to bundle their offerings and saying that, look, we have this big capability with IoT that can run on 5G, and come and take it from us, right? So they are collaborating. So, and she had talked about it earlier. There's an ecosystem that they are tapping into, which is a must for them. And right, a couple of days ago, there's another telecom provider who came in to sell me their wares. They brought in a partner, and they were not so much keen on selling what their spectrum was, but they were very keen to sell their solutions, right? And they really didn't care on whose spectrum that ran. So the approach is changing. The telcos are trying to get to get into the mind share and also the wallet share of all this, and embed themselves, and then bring in their, I think they will try to bring in their spectrum at that point of time when it becomes affordable and becomes more competitive. Again, it goes back to ROI. In that conversation I had, I saw a very interesting use case, floated by a third-party company, a startup, I think. They have an industrial cleaning robo that runs on 5G. Okay. They have adopted it to 5G, right? So we have seen cleaning robots that operate by themselves with all their lidars and sensors, battery charge, and then that they grew into slightly bigger options. But something that it's an offering that made immense sense to us, because straight away, our home maintenance, factory maintenance has a different dimension to it. I mean, my maintenance guys are thrilled to see a concept like that. Now, whether it will actually convert to something, tangible or not is a question of what ROI we get out of it. But the fact that you could, conceive an idea like that and turn it into practicality, it gives a different dimension. I mean, there is no ROI for cleanliness, right, on a shop floor. Right? You have a robot that keeps doing it day in and day out with the network that you provide. Nothing like it. You program the path, it goes and cleans. So the thinking is also going in a different direction. So the telcos are getting smarter in that, and so we will see a lot of interesting outcomes here in the days to come. That's what my guess is. So I support what Monica said on this.
Right, and Shankar, just to again, so given that you're so bullish, and given that the telcos have definitely got their act together and offering 5G, not just connectivity, but bundling it with use cases, specifically for manufacturing, Shankar, for the industry as a whole in India, do you see adoption picking up? Are there enough and more compelling use cases for manufacturing, not just automotive, but any other industry, be it chemical, pharma? What are your views?
So, Sunil, my perspective is, you rightly use the word bullish extremely. The opportunities are out there, and the issue is, while the technology teams and everybody in the business is willing to evaluate that and then take them on a journey that can make sense, I think their ability to convince their management that this actually makes sense is a little, there's a lot of diffidence there right now. And, everybody has to be on the same boat. As I said, the business has to make business sense, right? uh, the use cases are phenomenal, and if they're able to convert the use cases and monetize them and showcase it to demonstrate that you're having a beautiful platform to onboard all their operational use cases, I think it'll simply pick up, and there is a lot of evangelizing that has to be done for that. Uh, the support from forums has to come in, but the other thing that I wanted to comment here is there are a lot of startups in the country today, right? And they are hungry. They have the brain power, they have the wherewithal to, in terms of knowledge, to get these things done. All they have to do is make the connect between what they are capable of and what the industry wants. And a platform like this, you can see the adoption simply going through the roof, Sunil, because the the technology speaks for itself. We just
Great
have to
point.
get the message across to the right set of people to make sure that it makes sense for them, right? That's what I feel. I'm extremely bullish on it.
Right. That must be music to the ears of Gaurav, because Gaurav
Ah,
represents
I'm sure it is.
yeah, represents a startup, and Shankar sir, you are very bullish about it, and you talked about startups. So Gaurav, how are you seeing how do you see the 5G opportunity panning out next 2 to 3 years? I mean, you have a very good set of offerings, and you heard the industry veteran Shankar talking about the fact that we probably increase going forward, because we have the technology is proven. So how are you going to see the adoption, and your views, and how things will pan out in the next couple of years?
Sure. So I mean, I'll start from where Shankar sir just stopped. So, and of course, I mean, they are very encouraging words coming out of Shankar's this mouth, right? Uh, I mean, we are also quite bullish on the Indian market scene, right, or the Indian scene, right? Now, being an Indian organization, Indian startup, right, we've seen the kind of changes that have happened in the last 4 or 5 years, right? I remember when we started with, right, I mean, 5G, Indian organization, Indian customer, it didn't add up, right? But now in the last 2 odd years or so, I mean, we have ourselves seen such a sea change happening. I mean, I have been going to IMC for the last few years now, right? I have seen the type of Indian organizations being participants in the IMC. In the last 2 to 3 years, just look at the number of startups that have come up and have started coming to IMC, showcasing these products, right? And we ourselves, being a startup organization, I mean, we meet such people or such organizations on a daily basis, right? Everybody is hungry. As sir rightly pointed out, everybody wants to build solutions, right? There is this whole very healthy competition between Indian startups as well, right? The other very interesting thing about having a good, vibrant local startup scene is that we build solutions for India, right? Because what used to happen earlier was that a lot of Western startups or maybe organizations in the other part of the world, they were building or trying to solve problems in that part of the world, right? And then kind of superimposing solutions onto us and maybe customizing them a little bit, right? But having a very vibrant local startup scene means that now you're addressing our problems, right? The government as well has gone out of its way to actually promote these startups, right? This is not only in terms of the avenues that we get in terms of hand holding, in terms of providing platforms where a lot of companies like us, they can meet each other, they can get into that integration phase, they can know what kind of work is being done. Plus, the government has another important thing that they have done is that in a lot of rollouts that are happening or things that are within the government space, right, they are reserving or promoting Indian, made in India products, right? So that's actually a very beneficial thing, right? Now, you also mentioned the 100 5G lab setup
Yeah.
thing, right? Now, that's actually such a revolutionary thing, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to catch them young, right? So if at college level, if you have students being exposed to 5G technology, being exposed to how things work, right? Now they have an ecosystem wherein anybody sitting anywhere in India can actually build a 5G solution, test it within the college, right? And then roll it out, right? So the government in that sense has been quite active, I would say, and a lot of Indian organizations, they have started to take advantage of it. Uh, from my personal experience in the last 8 to 12 months, I've seen a lot of Indian organizations exploring the private 5G space. Right now, I've had some personal experiences on the oil and gas industry as well, and the usage of 5G in that. Right, a lot of Indian government organizations, since most of these are the PSUs or those sectors, they have started exploring how private 5G, can be beneficial to them. Right, one of their major concerns with existing infrastructure or existing technology was around security. Right now, private 5G or a lot of things that are on the 5G space, inherently they provide security. Right, so from that perspective, I see a lot of organizations, if not because of other reasons, just because of security that this thing offers, and plus the ability to actually still deploy a 5G core in their private network and still be able to integrate their legacy infrastructure using things like non-3GPP access or Wi-Fi access, right? They should be able to utilize some of the advantages of 5G. So from that perspective, I am quite bullish and hopeful that probably in the next 1 or 2 odd years, right, we'll see this explosive growth happening in the Indian scene as well.
All right, Gaurav, that's a nice way to you ended it, and we've completely run out of time. I wish we could have continued this conversation for a longer time, but it's been a fascinating discussion. Shankar, Monica, and Gaurav, I think one thing which really emerged from the discussion is that the best is yet to come. Right? I mean, next 2 years will be going to be very critical. Shankar, wonderful insights, and it's really amazing that the kind of use cases that you're working on. And I'll take up on what Monica said, that she wants to visit your factory. I'll join when I come next time to Chennai.
I told you that, Sunil. I invited you, and anyway, Monica, you're welcome, and so are you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then, so some of the points that you brought out, Shankar, about how you went about choosing your partners, and also the fact that the whole ecosystem is now building up, and the manufacturing industry is at the cusp of a revolution from a 5G standpoint. Monica, very important points about the coexistence of technologies, right? You can't have technologies competing against each other. The potential that exists in the MSME segment, and also the ecosystem aspect that's so critical. And then Gaurav, thank you. I mean, it's just amazing to hear the kind of breadth of capabilities that your organization is having, and you're also equally bullish about the opportunity in the next 2 to 3 years. So very interesting times ahead. I'm really looking forward to the space next 2 3 years. And Shankar, there's a lot of evangelizing happening actually on the 5G side. I mean, you have every other day there is some event or the other. So I don't think there's a lack of effort and part of forums to really advocate the importance of 5G. But
I agree with you. I never said there is a lot of evangelizing that is happening. Probably, it has to happen within the enterprise, decision circles, the financial circles, and so on and so forth. But yeah, the opportunity is definitely there.
Yeah, and this was one example of a forum, IET, doing this focused completely on 5G. So kudos to the IET team for putting together this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.